We are your area news team.
Union soldier NCO would look like. Now you can imagine these hats didn't last like this very long. So
No, feathers don't last long.
not in the rain and heat, no ma'am. So then you would go to a forage cap, and it looks like this.
I like that.
And the reason it's called a forage cap is because when you forage for food and stuff, you have basically had a bucket that you could carry stuff in. So you have your forage cap. Differences, this is what a Confederate soldier may have looked like. This is our uniform as the 3rd Louisiana. And this is made out of jean cloth, which is a combination of wool and cotton woven together. He has
linen woolsey, isn't it?
some of that would have been woven in linen, and that would have been linen woolsey, but this is actually cotton jean cloth. This is a tin canteen. Here he has a wooden canteen. He has a nice flowery purse. My wife bought that for me. They would have had stuff sent from home instead of being issued like the Union soldiers would, so that was probably made from a rug or a piece of tapestry that his wife had. This is a little different style of bayonet because it goes with a different musket. This one has a sling this way, this one straight down. And his cartridge box is actually on the back, but it's on a belt. It's on the belt with the rest of them. And this is called a mule collar. And instead of wearing this big knapsack on his back, which was standard,
It sounds like
a tinker, don't it?
sounds like you're getting dressed for the battle.
So this is what he would have worn. Anything that's not in his haversack would have been in his knapsack. Extra blankets, any of this personal stuff. You can imagine carrying all this. This weighs between 25 and 40 pounds fully loaded. So you have this, plus you have a 9-pound musket that you're carrying, marching through the hot Virginia heat in a navy blue uniform. So it doesn't take long to want to get rid of this stuff. So a lot of guys went to what they call a mule collar or a blanket roller. They put their personal stuff in it, roll it up, and wear it like that. And then he has a civilian type hat. They're really different units would have had different hats. There wasn't anything standard across the Confederacy. On my knapsack too, I have what's called a greatcoat, which is a large overcoat, like a trench coat that they use for blankets, for a coat, for even a shelter if they had to. Get rid of this now. And on the back I have my bucket, which is a mug / bucket, that's what it stands for. And they would use that to cook in or to drink out of. And you notice I make sounds when I walk, those are heel plates. We have metal heel plates on our heels to protect them. To protect the heels.
Was there any concern about the noise you guys made when you were marching? I mean,
I'm sure there probably would have been, but if you've got horses and wagons and
yeah, it's not quiet.
So, yes ma'am.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure they would have probably dropped some of that stuff if they were in an area where they thought the enemy might hear them, or they would have unloaded some of it. This is the musket I was referring to.
Much longer than I thought.
This is an 1861 Springfield reproduction. It was manufactured in Springfield, Massachusetts. It weighs 9 pounds. It is a 58 caliber. Let me draw my cards on the details. Loading and firing, you're expected to be able to load it and fire it 3 times per minute.
Wow.
The record recorded was 6 times per minute.
Wow.
It has an effective range of 100 to 400 yards. And the farthest recorded shot was 500 to 600. At the time to manufacture them, it costs a little over $13 to make. They sell for about $700 or $800 now in reproduction. And I can tell you a little bit about talking about the loading 3 times per minute. This is called a tampion. This goes in the end to keep out moisture and anything else that might while you're washing. To load a musket, you would be standing in a line of battle attention like this. You would get the command to load. You bring your musket around here in front of you. You would go into your cartridge box and take out a cartridge. Now, the ones we have are really short because all they have in them are powder. The original ones would have had this bullet. This is a mini ball. This is the bullet that this rifle musket fires. So they would have been that length. You take it out, you tear it with your teeth. One of the only requirements to be a soldier is that you had a good tooth on the top of your gun and a good tooth on the bottom, because you're going to have to tear into your cartridge. So you tear your cartridge open, you pour your powder in, you then put your mini ball in, you take out your ramrod, and you pack everything down. And then you pull the musket up here, pull the hammer back once, then you have what's called a cap. It's a little bitty brass thing like this. It contains mercury inside of it, and that sits on the nipple here. Put that on the nipple and then you're ready to fire. When you get the command to ready aim, you pull your musket up, and then when you pull your musket up, you pull the hammer back all the way. This is a lot of detail. You have to know how to do all this, and you're under fire. And then fire, and you fire. And then you have to come back to load and do that again.
How many of those in a minute?
3 times a minute you have to be able to do that.
That's what they did in the Army.
Right. So, I can't imagine the man that's doing it 6 times, because it's tough to do.
Yeah.
And we don't even use ramrods in reenacting. We just do the powder and the caps and the fire. So, and that's hard to do 3 times per minute. Lots of smoke, yes ma'am. The Springfield is predominantly the federal weapon. The Confederacy would have used an Enfield, which was a British import. It's almost the same. It's the same caliber and all that. It's almost the same musket. At the beginning of the war, there was a lot of buck and ball, what they call ball. They were still using the round balls instead of the mini balls, because these weren't rifled yet. That was one of the greatest and worst parts of the war, is when this musket became rifled. The shots were a lot more accurate and a lot more deadly. And that's when Mr. Monet came up with the mini ball. A little bit about the other things I have here. Well, I'm going to show you about the bayonet. We have our bayonet too that we use. I like at the funeral home we deal with the VFW a lot, and I like when they come in with their bayonet and it's about this long. So you call that a bayonet? This is what it looks like with the bayonet on. Bayonets, even though you see them used, do a lot of bayonet charges in the movies, they were rarely ever used for a bayonet charge. A lot of times they were used for a candle holder. They would also heat it up, bend it into a hook, and that's what they used to bring bodies off the battlefield, because they didn't want to touch the bodies, so they hook them and drag them where they needed. That's really about all they use bayonets for. So. A little bit about the display I have here. This is a reproduction of a Harper's Weekly, which would have been the newspaper of that time. It's a very nice reproduction. I have a number of these.
Is that out of Harper's Ferry?
It is out of New York.
Okay. Because we spent a lot of time at Harper's Ferry.
You would have extra clothes that you would take. This is a smoking cap. Everybody likes to make fun of my smoking cap. My little smoking cap. Every man would have had a nightcap, because that's to keep your head warm. Cigars, of course, smoking pipe, playing cards. We all had our vices. On the way to the battlefield, you would find a lot of playing cards where the boys would throw them to the side, because if you get killed in battle, they're going to box up all your personal effects and send them home. You don't want Mom to know you've been playing cards, so you get rid of those playing cards before you go into battle. You have stationery. This is reproduction stationery. These are envelopes they would have had.
What's in the cart for that 5 with pork in it?
This is molasses. They were, ma'am,
Where's the goober beans?
right here. I have some. Hardtack. Everybody know what hardtack is? Yes, no?
Yes, heard of it.
Hardtack is nothing but flour and water baked till it sets like a rock. It was issued to anybody that could have it, but it was a lot of the northern units because it did not spoil. Here about, I guess it was last year, they found a boat that had been sunk during the war and it still had hardtack and it looked just like the day it was made. They called it
Underwater?
$2. They called it worm, but it was packaged in a good box, I guess. They would call it worm castles because sometimes worms would get into it. They'd just scrape them off and go about their way. You would put it in your coffee to soften it up, or you'd break it up with a butt of your musket, anything to eat it. They would take bacon grease and make what they call kush, and they would eat that, fry it up with the bacon grease. Peanuts, coffee beans, rice, beans. They did have canned foods at that time. You'll notice the can looks a little different from what we have today. They would open it with a bayonet, usually. That's how they'd open it in the field. This is tomatoes. You would have your salt and your sugar. This is unrefined sugar, how it would have been issued then. And molasses. For daily rations for a soldier in the Union Army, you would have been issued 1.25 pounds of fresh beef or salt beef, salt pork. You see salt pork in the grocery store today, but it's nothing like it was back then. I mean, it was, from what I understand and what I've read, it was pretty terrible to try to eat back then. They would soak it overnight and it would still be so salty they could barely eat it, but that's how they preserved it, in salt. Or 3/4 pound bacon or pork. 22 ounces of bread or flour, or a pound, which would have been 9 to 10 hardtack, or 1.25 pounds of cornmeal. For every 100 men, they would have issued 8 quarts of beans or 10 pounds of rice, 10 pounds of coffee, 15 pounds of sugar, 4 quarts of vinegar, 4 pounds of soap, 1.5 pounds of candles, 2 quarts of salt, and 1 quart of molasses. And that's a daily ration.
No wonder the chicken suffered.
Yes, ma'am. Chickens and pigs and anything they could get their hands on. Rabbits, deer. Of course, anytime they could come for fresh fruit or anything like that, they would. This is my cup. This is a canteen half. If your canteen got a hole in it or a leak, they would put it in the fire. That would melt the solder. And then you have 2 plates that you can eat off of. You notice the little wire ring here? They would put a stick in there and then they had a frying pan. So very ingenious. Tin cup.
Toothpaste and all that?
Toothpaste, tooth powder. This is actually a bone and horse tail bristle brush, which is what they would have been back then. Soap. This is a housewife, which is a sewing kit. That's what they called their sewing kits back then, was housewives. Every soldier was expected to know how to patch his uniform if he needed to. And let's see, and then a little personal lantern, which is reflective. Kind of neat. It folds up and stores other candles if you needed to. It fits in your knapsack. And of course your Bible. You would have your Bible to read. And I believe that's it. A little bit about the average soldier. He was a little over 25 years in age. Some as young as 11 or 12 would have been buglers or drummers. One trick they would do, if someone was 16, one of my ancestors was 16 when he entered the Army, they would take the piece of paper and write the number 18 on it and put it in their shoe. So when the guy came to him and said, "Are you over 18?" Well, he's not lying. He's over 18, it's in his shoe. So he was allowed to be in the Army if he could be convincing enough. Some guys in their 40s, 50s, and even 60s enlisted when they could, but the average age was 25. 75% of them were Native American, or born in America, American citizens. Most of them were foreign, a lot of them were foreigners. The average height was 5'7". The tallest recorded in the Union Army was 6'10", and the shortest was 3'4".
Good Lord.
Almost 50% of them were farmers. 88% of them had a grade school education. About 4% had high school education, and that's the Union Army. Through this hobby, I have been able to do some great trips. Gettysburg, I did the 150th anniversary of Gettysburg, the 150th anniversary of Resaca, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, 150th of Pleasant Hill. So a lot of good trips we made. Like I said, I was an American Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I've also been in a film they did for the museum, which we did filming at Pleasant Hill. My unit has been involved in a couple of interesting things. One thing we do at Fort Randolph, which is over outside of Alexandria, when the Union came through and burned Alexandria, the only building left was the church. So about 3 years ago, we got to reenact the attempted burning of the church. So we marched across the bridge with our torches to the church. And what saved the church during the war is the priest came out with his sidearms, and he held off the Union Army. And so the priest there, they do it every year now, but the priest there will come out with his 6-shooters and give us some threatening message, and we turn around and leave and move on. So a lot of exciting things I've been able to be a part of, and like I said, my wife's starting to get the bug, so she'll be camping out with me before you know it.
Talk a little bit about the importance of the Pleasant Hill fight, how it saved East Texas, etc. You know, the importance of all that.
One other thing I didn't mention, each soldier would have been issued what is called a shelter hat. And it's basically a piece of canvas, and you notice the buttons on it. What you do is you get together with another guy and you would button it together, and then you have a pup tent. That's a very small tent like this, and 2 of you are sleeping in it, so very close quarters. Also, they had rubberized blankets, a ground cloth, or you could use it for a poncho. That's another thing that they were issued, which is very handy. You could string it between some trees and have you a shelter. So that's my presentation on this.
CBC-radio.com, keeping you connected wherever you go.